Welcome to Mormonism 101. This is a series of videos which is going to bless everyone who watches them. We try to show truth. We try to show what's going on in the Mormon church and compare that with the Bible. So this particular Mormonism 101 session was many years ago. I had a lot more hair back then. And so it's session one. We'll talk about what's in session one here as an introduction. These are overheads. So this is before PowerPoint. So it's quite a few years ago. I'll tell you how I started, and so you're going to get the story of that. I'll cover what kind of overall topics we'll cover, and we're going to cover a lot more than that's covered, but you'll hear some topics. My whole point of doing Mormonism 101 is to share what I've learned in the field over the years. And I've been doing this now, this is 2023, December. And I've been doing this since 1983. I've been going to Utah since '85 every year, sometimes 5 times. So I've been to Utah. I figure the amount of days I've been in Utah, I probably spent 2 or 3 years of my life, and I've never been a resident of Utah. So that gives you an idea. Why do I go to Utah to witness the Mormons? Well, because Mormons don't live on the moon. And so if you're trying to witness the Mormons in your living room, that's not going to work too good. So you want to go where the Mormons are. So we like to go to Mormon events. And Manti, Utah was one of the best Mormon events out there. They had 20 to 30,000 Mormons a night to a big pageant or outdoor play that they would do about Joseph and Brigham and the Mormon church and how bad all the rest of the churches were. So it was a lot of fun. We got to talk to Mormons left and right. We got Mormons mad. We got Mormons sad. We got Mormons glad. So it was tons of fun. So I'll be talking about that. You'll be seeing that over and over again as we go through that. So the point is, I wanted to learn how to witness to Mormons more effectively because my Mormon friends were either going to heaven or going to hell. Now, if Mormonism is going to heaven, then I need to be a Mormon, and so do you, because it's from God. But if Mormons aren't going to heaven and Mormonism is wrong, then we need, as Christians, to help our Mormon friends realize how to get lost first and then how to get saved. So first thing most Christians want to do is we want to get them saved. So we want to use Isaiah 43:10, John 3:16. We got our verses. Romans Road. That's not the best way. And they have got traps for you if you try that situation. Your conversation is very short. I hear my mommy calling. They're boogieing. They're like snaggle push, exit stage right. They're gone. So how do you talk to Mormons long enough to feed them the gospel, to get them to see how Mormonism is wrong, and to be listening to you, interested in what you're saying? How do you do that? Because most of the time you talk to Mormons, they shut you off, they give you the testimony, and they're gone. If that's what you've experienced, even your own relatives, your best place to do is to contact Marshall Alma Road, 509-582-5627, or any other ministry that does this, and go witness with us someplace out of town where your friends, your relatives don't find out about it. So that gives you an idea on how I think and why I'm doing Mormonism 101 here. We filmed this, like I say, 15 years ago or so, and we just never got it all done. So now I'm giving you the intros. My modern Mormonism 101 is a PowerPoint presentation, but this is all overheads. So it gives you, and I was more handsome back then too. So one of the themes of this class is the 3 keys of all faiths. So there's 3 keys of every faith. I don't care what faith you are, even if you're an atheist, there's 3 keys of your faith. And so we talk about that kind of stuff. I'll talk about the t-shirts that I wear. On the first session, you're going to see me wearing a yellow t-shirt with Joe Smith on the front, Brigham on the back, a big red circle, Ghostbusters slashed through it. We're the Mormon Busters. And so it says no false prophets on it. It's banana yellow. It's a target. So how does it work? I don't think I explained it in this session, so I'm going to explain it ahead of time. How it works is the wimpy Mormons see that and they go, oh, and they're gone. The hardcore Mormons see that and go, oh, we got to fix this boy. He's broken. And so I get all the hardcore, really good conversations. And sometimes I get the intellectual people who are just kind of medium core, you might call them. They'll come and talk with me and say, what's going on? And why'd you wear the shirt? The funniest thing that ever happened to me, surprisingest thing, I guess you'd say, is I wore this shirt as a white shirt back then. I bought it from John L. Smith at the Capstone Conference in 1887 in Park City, Utah. And I bought the shirt knowing I would never wear it, but I want to be bold. And John said, "This is bold," and he showed that shirt, white one. So I put it on underneath my other shirt, and I could wear it as Mormon underwear. Yeah, it was great. But one day I decided to wear it to the mall, Columbia Center Mall, where I live. And I started at JCPenney's and started walking toward the Bond, which is about halfway through the mall. I didn't get any farther than the Bond where a Mormon guy showed up with his son and said, "What's the shirt about?" And I said, "Well, this is Joe Smith. That's Brigham." He goes, "Well, I know that. I'm Mormon." I go, "No way." Yeah. And so I explained why I wore the shirt. We talked about why Mormonism was wrong. We talked for 20 minutes. I thought, wow, I haven't had a 20-minute conversation in forever. You just don't get 20-minute conversation with Mormons. They shut you off. And I thought, I thought I was going to offend them, make them really mad. And, well, I think that happens. But so I want to explain that shirt. It's like the best bait you can have for Mormons. You stick out that crawfish out there and you're going to catch a big bass or whatever. I mean, the crawdad, that bass is looking for good bait. Well, this is good bait for Mormons. So the other thing I'm wearing in that first session is a chain with 2 keys on it. And before I did the 3 keys of all faith, I started doing 2 keys. And so this is really old. And so I would wear that to Utah. And people would go, "Okay, what the keys for?" Well, it's the keys to the kingdom of heaven. I found the keys. It's like, ho, 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 ho. So you have fun witnessing the Mormons. Oh, yeah, right. Well, so what are the keys? You don't know? You guys are Mormons. You don't know what the keys of the faith are? The keys to the kingdom of heaven? Joseph said he had them. You don't have them? So we have a lot of fun doing that. So you're going to see that this is a fun way of witnessing. It's going to be profitable for you to learn these things. You're going to have to learn some Mormonism because Jesus knew what the Pharisees and Sadducees taught. So he knew the false doctrines of his time. We need to know the false doctrine. So we have to judge right from wrong. We have to judge false doctrine as false doctrine. And so those are things. When I meet someone, I have to decide whether they're brothers or sisters. If they're brothers or sisters, or if they're not. If you're not part of the faith, then I witness to you. If you're part of the faith, I fellowship with you. So you have to decide that. So that's another way we judge. As we see, we may make lots of judgments in our life, right and wrong. Okay, don't smoke, don't drink, don't have sex outside of marriage. Lots of decisions made that's called judging. So when the Bible says judge not, you look at that word, it's actually condemn not. So look it up in the Greek and check that out. And it's been used against us saying you can't judge right from wrong, and that's just not right. The Bible is very clear about that. So you're going to see that in this first session. And then there's a picture of a Mormon kid and myself next to him there in the street in Manti, and he became a non-Mormon in 20 minutes, which was the first person that happened. And that was after probably 10 years of witnessing. Then I'll give you some verses. I'll talk about a debate. I challenge any Mormon, if you're listening to this video, call my phone number, 509-582-5627. I'll challenge you to a debate on Mormonism. I don't care what topic you pick. I want to debate you on that topic. So that's how bold I am. That's how I know I'm right. And I know you're wrong. So if you're a Mormon, listen to this. You're wrong. And I'm calling you out. So you got courage? Come on out. Call my number, 509-582-5627. Now we're going to talk about Book of Mormon versions. The Book of Mormon has been changed 7 different times from the time it was first came out by the gift and power of God in 1830. Joseph Smith said it was given by the gift and power of God. So as you make decisions and you take a stand, I don't care if you take a stand for a Republican or Democrat or whatever you want to take a stand, somebody's going to not like your stand. Oh, abortion's right, abortion's wrong. Doesn't matter what you pick. Take any stand you want. Jesus is the only way. The Muslims will kill you. They will behead you. I had one Muslim here about 2 months ago say, if we were in my country, I could kill you right now. I smiled at him. You could, but why would you? Because he's supposed to, that's why. So we're going to look at different religions occasionally, and we'll talk about, are you going to stand for God? What is the consequence for standing for God? The consequence is you're going to be in trouble. Did Jesus get in trouble? Did Paul get in trouble? If you haven't been in trouble for a year for Jesus, what are you doing? So it's good trouble, though. And I think God protects us. He knows how many days we have. So we'll be answering the question on Mormons Christians. And lots of people say, well, Mormons are Christians. I had two pastors tell me that in the early days. 1984 told me that Mormons are Christians. We just don't agree with everything they teach. And I couldn't tell them why they weren't Christians, because I didn't know Mormonism very well. But I know well now. In my left pocket, I carry a Book of Mormon. And so I tell people, and I'll show you this here as we go here. This is a pretty big introduction today, but the other ones will be shorter. But in my left pocket, I carry a Book of Mormon. And why do I carry it in my left pocket? Because it's not right. And so that's how I start. Now, I've just told a Mormon that the Book of Mormon is not right, which means if you believe in it, you're going to hell. So I've told him he's going to hell, and he'll grin and laugh, and he goes, okay, what else you got? What's in your right pocket? And so my right pocket, I have my New Testament, and then we'll show you that one. And I keep it in my, oops, that's the wrong one. I show him the cross first, and then I flip it over to my verse. My verse says, hold firmly to the trustworthy message as it has been taught. So you can encourage others with sound doctrine, and the thing Christians don't want to do, refute those who oppose it. So you're going to hear about that in some of the Bible verses as we go through Mormonism 101. So in my other upper right-hand pocket, I went to Israel a couple of years ago. This is not on the video, so I'm just going to share this with you, some of the newer things I have gone through. This change purse here has a widow's mite from the time of Christ. And this is a replica. When you fly into Tel Aviv, they're $100 for the replicas. One side is a chariot wheel, the other side is an anchor. On the bronze coin, not copper, but bronze penny, basically, Rome is telling you that this, on their penny, that they have an army and a navy, don't mess with them. And so I give this to the LDS people and tell them that this is evidence. I like coins, and so I was looking for evidence the Bible's true. And I found these. They weren't found in the North Pole. They weren't found in Australia. They're found right where they're supposed to be, right in Israel. And so then in my other left pocket, let's see if I can find it here. I have cargo pants, so I have plenty of pants. Plenty of pockets. My other left pocket, here it is. These are all the coins mentioned in the Book of Mormon in Alma chapter 11 that prove the Book of Mormon is true. All the coins, the replicas of the coins that they found so far in North, South, and Central America that prove the Book of Mormon is true. These are all the coins they found so far. And I show this to the Mormons too. And I kind of do that with it. And you know what they say? They go away with a coin in one hand, showing the Bible's true. No coins in the other hand. You know what they say when I show them this? They say nothing, because they haven't seen the coins either. So it's something for them to think about. I don't think you need to bring a Mormon to Christ in the first meeting. I think he needs to have time to think through all the problems in Mormonism and come to a conclusion that it's wrong. And once you come to the conclusion it's wrong, I've had them ask me in almost a begging manner, well, then how do you get saved? And so now they're asking you to witness to them. When they ask that question, it's like, please tell me how to get to heaven. So that's where we want to get to with Mormons. I don't want them to make a false decision for Christ and stay in the Mormon church. And this happens quite a few times. Well, I'm a Christian, I'm a Mormon, but I'm Christian. You're going to hear that a lot. So we're going to see the theology of Mormonism. And then you're going to hear that Mormons, missionaries lie to you. They're taught to lie to you about theology so that you will think they're Christians. So and they don't know that it's a lie. They've been taught to just not tell you the whole truth. So we're going to get into that. This is the end of session. We'll talk about session 1 here. This is beginning of session 1. So enjoy learning how to witness more effectively to Mormons. Well, to start out with, I'm going to turn that back off again. Introduce myself. I'm Marshall. In 1983, my best friend at work challenged me to become a Mormon. So I was raised in a kind of a wimpy Christian church, and so I really didn't know much. And I didn't know if they were right or wrong, but my mom told me they were wrong, so I kind of believed they were wrong. But I didn't really know. So when my Mormon friend said, Marshall, you're just this close, you need to come over to Mormonism now and you'll be there, I had to admit that I didn't really know if Mormonism was true or not.
So I took the challenge. Moroni 10:4 and 5, I went home and prayed and asked God if the Book of Mormon was true or not. And I consider the cost, if Mormonism is true, I need to be a Mormon. I need to be the best Mormon I can be. And if Mormonism is false, then I need to help all my Mormon buddies get out of the Mormon church because I wanted them to go to heaven too. So I prayed and asked God if Mormonism is the best thing here, and I don't know about it, because Mark might be right. Maybe there's something about Mormonism I don't know about. And it's a good point. I could not know, and I could be wrong. Just as much as a Mormon who's raised Mormon could be wrong, or they could think I'm wrong, or either way. So I thought, well, let's see, count the cost. My parents are going to think I've flipped because I joined the Mormon church. My friends are going to think I'm flipped out, and my pastor. So when you think about the consequences of joining the Mormon church, think about the opposite. What if you're LDS and you're a Mormon and you've got Mormon family and everything, and you get out of the Mormon church? See, it's the same thing on both sides. But I determined to find out if Mormonism was true or not. For myself, I needed to know. Come on in. There's a few chairs over there. And so I said, God, send Mormon missionaries to my house, so I can learn from them, and then send, the other side. If Mormonism is true, I need to find out. And if it's false, I need to know why. From this day forward, I want to know why it's true or why it's false. So that's where I came from. That was 1983. From then, I started going to conferences in Utah. A couple of years later, I've been going to Utah since 1985. Haven't missed a year, and that was kind of a promise I made to God that if I have life or breath, I'm going to make it there. Come on in. And so, people keep asking. They were asking me in the first, you're going to go again next year? So if I'm still living and breathing, I'm going, And so they don't ask me much anymore. They know I'm going. So I invite you to come with us. We do it's a little mission trip for maybe a week or less if you can make it. And you actually get to go practice what you learn here. So I call this a correspondence course in swimming. That's the one where you get it in the mail, and you know how to, move your hands and breathe to the side and kick your feet, but you've never been in the water. You haven't ever had water up your nose. You've never had water in your eyes. You've never gone because you didn't need to. So my contention is if you don't go in the field, you don't go in the water, you really can't swim. I don't care if you get an A in the class. I don't care if you're top in your class. If you haven't been in the water, you really can't swim. It's the same way here. So you're going to learn things here that if you don't take in the field, then you're really not swimming. Okay? You're really not witnessing to Mormons. So the purpose of the class is really to learn to witness to Mormons. I'm kind of looking at the syllabus here. So if you have that, we're going to kind of go through some of that just so you have an idea. And so the verse we're going to remember today, hopefully, is 1 Peter 3:15. Always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks you for the hope that lies within you, and do it with reverence and respect. So 1 Peter 3:15. I'll tell you a little bit about the class. It's certainly it's a college class. A lot of you have heard this before because I've been advertising it that way. It's that if I gave you the test right now, the final, you'd probably get 3 or 5 or 10%, depending on how much you know. But I'm teaching stuff that isn't in the books. I don't know of anybody that's written a book like what I'm teaching. And so when I get done, though, I'm going to teach you the basics. So you're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to know this stuff. I'm going to review, and I'm going to review, and I'm going to review. So if you just show up to class, you're going to be able to get 100% on the final. That's my goal, is so you can get 100% on the final. Because I want you to be able to do it. I want you to be able to know the stuff. And so I'm going to teach the basics and the basics and the basics. You're going to hear it over and over again. Then the intermediate stuff I'm going to teach a lot, so you'll know some of that pretty well. But the advanced stuff, I'm just going to teach it once, and you're going to go, okay, I know it's out there somewhere. So that's my goal, is for you to know things that you can't recall, can't find, but that's okay, because you'll have the 3 levels of learning. And let's see. Some of the topics we're going to cover is first vision. 3 keys to all faith is the key we're going to be using a lot. And the Mormon scriptures, I'm going to show you scriptures that even the Mormons haven't noticed. They read right over it. How many times have you read in your Bible and you go, wow, this was here and I missed it, Well, they missed a lot of stuff. So we're going to show them some stuff, and that's what's really going to show them. It's like, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't happen in our Bible, but it happens in your Book of Mormon, so why is that? So you will have at your fingertips, like you're going to put more screwdrivers in your pouch. You're going to have wrenches, and you're not going to have to worry about putting something together with a screwdriver when you need a hammer. So you don't have to hammer the nails with a screwdriver. So you're going to have lots of tools. Talk about Mormon priesthood, Mormon salvation, errors in the Book of Mormon, all kinds of things. Mormon geography, Mormon prophets. We're going to talk about testimony, lots and lots of things, different topics. So you will be well-versed with what's going to happen there. So my goals in the class are, I want to focus your Christian walk, so we are actually going to be evangelistic, which is called polemics. And you've heard of apologetics, where we defend the faith. This polemics is the offense. So like a football team, if you don't have a good offense, it better be 0-0 or you're not going to, you're not going to do so good, Without an offense, if they score once, you're done. So I think in Christianity, we've kind of missed the offense. So that's kind of the way I was raised. We didn't do any offense. We didn't want to offend anybody, so we didn't say anything. So I'm now saying things, and I know that I'm offending people. But I looked at the Bible, and Paul offended people, Jesus offended people. So I think we're going to be in good company. Some essentials in the class are, we're going to talk about the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and I'm wearing keys. So, a lot of this is, you look at my shirt and you say, well, what's going on, Marshall? You're kind of offending Mormons. Well, I didn't really know about this shirt too well. It was a similar shirt that happened in one of the conferences I went to, and I thought, man, that is bold. But, the guy who had it was holding it up, said, this is bold. He says, I wouldn't wear it, but I think somebody here needs to have this shirt. I didn't know it was me, but I sure wanted to be bold, and it wasn't used. This shirt was just way too bold. But I figured out I could wear it to bed. I wore it to bed. I did. I didn't want to take it off. The next day I thought, well, what am I going to do? So I didn't want to take it off, but I didn't want to wear it either. So I put a button-up shirt over top of it. And so I went up to the guy who bought it for him and said, hey, I got my Holy Mormon underwear on, He just laughed. And so I figured out a way to wear it. And one time I decided to wear it to the mall, of all places. And I thought, I just got to see what this shirt does. So I wore it to the mall, and I was in the Bon Marché, back when it was the Bon, so you know how long ago that was. And a guy came up with this kid, and the kid said, Daddy, what's this shirt about? And the guy was a Mormon, and his kid was Mormon, and I had a 2-hour talk with that guy because I wore the shirt. And he was immediately, hostile, is a little upset with me, and then after 2 sentences, he goes, well, that's interesting, and we just kept talking, and he said, well, why did you wear the shirt? And then afterwards, he shook my hand and thanked me for wearing the shirt so we could have that conversation. No, I don't know. I mean, that's a one-time encounter. Did he leave Mormonism? No, I don't know, because, I'm just sowing seeds and I don't know what's going to happen. So, most Mormons aren't going to jump out in 10 seconds. Kind of like if I told you, guess what? The Bible's wrong, and I can prove it. How long is it going to take me to convince you? 10 seconds? I don't think so. You're going to go, he's crazy. He's off his rocker, right? It's going to take a while. And that's usually what happens. Now, some people have said it takes 8 years. The first person I helped out of the Mormon church took 9 months. From the time he told me, Marshall, there's no way you're ever going to convert me out of Mormonism, because I know it's true, to the time where he said, you know what? I've transferred Jesus's. So it is possible. Hardcore guy, he was Temple Mormon, first guy I ever helped out. Hardcore. So it is possible, and the information that I use, I'm going to give to you so you can do the same thing. Because our Mormon friends need to know the real Jesus. They need to know the real gospel, need to go to the real heaven. And I tell them, phony Jesus, phony heaven, not a good place. So I tell them that all the time. You hear that a lot. And when I'm on the streets, you're going to hear that and go, he said that before. I remember that. Okay. The who principle, they always tell me we have the same Jesus you do, so we talk about how you define who someone is. It's the who principle. You use it all the time. How do you know who Marshall is? How do you know who Mom and Dad are? It's a principle that we'll cover in class. You're going to like that. And then gospel compromise, we'll talk about that. Okay. And defining terms. If you decide to follow Jesus and be an active Christian, you are now entering the controversy zone. You will be in controversy. Somebody's going to try and tell you you're wrong. If you take a stand on anything, Democrat, Republican, right or wrong, it doesn't matter what it is, you take a stand, somebody's going to be upset with you. So you might as well get ready for it. I think about it as like, if you don't want to have grease under your fingernails, don't become a mechanic, right? Okay, if you don't want to have somebody mad at you, don't be a Christian. It's not going to work. Okay, so if you're going to be a Christian, you're going to tell people about Jesus, you're going to run into someone who's going to be upset with you. Okay, that's just the way it is. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about is what is an expert? And that'll be on the final. That'll be on the test. What is an expert? And really, it's a relative term. An expert, to me, is someone who knows something I don't know. Everyone in this room is an expert on something that I don't know, because I haven't been everywhere you've been, done everything you've done, so you know things that I don't know. You have stories that I haven't heard, and so an expert is just somebody who knows something that you don't know. So when I first started looking at this, I didn't know anything about Mormonism. Everybody was an expert that knew anything. I knew they had a Book of Mormon. That's about all I knew. So I just say, as we look at the person we're talking to, they're an expert too, at what they know that we don't know. So I want to hear them. So I listen too. I listen and I share. So that's something, sometimes we want to take control. We don't want to let them say a word in edgewise, and that doesn't always work. What's the difference between boldness, confidence, and arrogance? Boldness, confidence, and arrogance. What is the difference? When you are so confident, I'm like arrogant confident. When it comes to Mormonism today, I know what's wrong, and I know why that I know it's wrong. So when you look at me and you say, he's just being bold out there, he's arrogant. You might jump to conclusion that boldness is arrogance. You're going to see boldness because I'm determined, and I can't wait. I don't think it's arrogance. Arrogance is when you're wrong, really. I think I'm right. I'm going to be bold. Now, if I'm wrong, I tell Mormons, if I'm wrong, convince me I'm wrong. And I'll change. So there's a little humbleness there. And we need to have that kind of attitude, I think, as we witness the Mormons. It's like, hey, you know what? If I'm wrong, I'll change. And they found mistakes in my brochures. They found things that I was, minor little things, so I fix them. And why not? I should be accurate, right? So I don't want to be dishonest. When I talk to some Mormon, I want to be honest with them and tell them what's right and what's wrong. I want to be honest. So that's something you want to be sure of. As a Christian, we need to be doing the right thing. Okay. Class outline. This is really good. I got a class outline for you. And this class is going to be different than last year. This is my second time doing it, but class outline. 3 things. Here it is. The source of truth. Everything is going to fit in these 3 things. Source of truth. Where do you go for your source of truth? When you were a kid, mom says, don't touch that, right? Okay, mom's your source of truth, right? And that's all, we all had mom and dad as our source of truth. Somebody that was an adult was our source of truth. Maybe adopted mom and dad. But somebody told us, don't touch that. And if you touched it, you get slapped again, right? And you break that, then you get slapped again, So don't touch that. So when we're raised with mom and dad as our source of truth. If you're 35 and you got to go, I got to ask my mom if I can, stay out longer. We need to talk. You haven't transferred your source of truth yet. And sometime between, 2 and 35, you probably transferred your source of truth. Like, don't you touch my car. Or that is my girl. Or something like that. This is my money. There's something out there that makes you tick. And that's really your source of truth. It could be, I'm a Muslim. And, I know it's true. And something has happened. You've either found a different God, you've done something else. So your source of truth changes. And if you're going to Bible seminary, they're going to call that authority. So what is your authority? As biblical Christians, the Bible is our authority because it's really authoritative. You want to get real accurate. God is our authority, and the Bible is his word, so it's authoritative to us. So if I want to know if it's right or wrong to lie, go check the Bible. Well, today it's okay to lie. Tomorrow it's not, whatever, that's what we have to look at. I got to turn this thing off. There we go. So, what is your source of truth? That's the first thing. And it's, how do I get that turned off? I don't know. Anyway, who is God is number 2. So your source of truth is going to tell you who God is. So if you pick a source of truth that is going to tell you, that's going to tell you what God you believe in. So if I pick the Book of Mormon as my source of truth, you can imagine I wouldn't get the same God. Come on in. It would be a different God, and it'd be a different method of salvation. So that's number 3. Number 3 is a method of salvation. So there's your outline for the whole class. Everything I'm going to talk about is going to fit in. I'll ask you a question. You go, oh yeah, that's number 1. Oh, that's number 3. That's number 2. It's going to fit into those three categories. And I call that the 3 keys to all faiths. So if I'm talking the Bible, the source of truth is, I'm talking biblical Christianity, that's the Bible. And the God is going to be the God described in that Bible. So it'd be the Trinity God of the Bible. And the method of salvation would be by grace through faith, because that's the method of salvation in the Bible. Now, all other religions are going to be different than that. That's why they're different. So the other religions aren't going to have the God of the Bible as their God. They're not going to have the method of salvation is by grace alone. They're going to be worthiness and works. All of them are. Worthiness and works. You're going to have to do works. You're going to have to be worthy. You have to be righteous. You have to not sin. You have to stop sinning. That's all the other religions are that way. Okay. Boy, that was quick. Now, when I was first looking into Mormonism, there were so many parts, and I was confused, and I really didn't know what to do. So this is like a puzzle. So how do you work a puzzle? You do the border first, yeah. That's the easiest way to make a puzzle is do the border first. So the key to doing a puzzle is to do the border first. So the key for Mormonism is going to be something we're going to learn as we go. How do we witness the Mormons? How do we break into it? To me, part of the key is knowing the 3 keys of all faiths. So if you learn that, it makes it really easy to witness. You can witness to any different religion. If I was doing Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics, Seventh-day Adventists, doesn't really matter. If I know their source of truth, that source of truth will tell me their God and their method of salvation. Okay, the first part I want to talk about is discernment. And you're going to get questioned when you start saying somebody's right or wrong. The question I want to ask is, are Mormons Christian? So how would we know if they are or not? They're going to claim they're Christian. So there's this group out there that the Mormons don't really like, and they came up with this movie called The God Makers. So these guys basically slammed the Mormons in their opinion, and they told them that they were wrong and they were going to hell. And they didn't like that. So I started looking into that because it happened to come out the same year that I was looking into Mormonism. Here's a person who's holding a sign, says, "Do not be deceived, Mormonism is not Christian." Now, how would he know that? He's made a decision. He's going to get jumped because it says they're not Christian. So how does he determine that? And is he right or not? Well, the Bible's really clear. I've got quite a few verses up here you can't see, but I'll read them to you because John 7:24 says, "Stop judging by mere appearances and make a right judgment." So the Bible's telling us to judge right from wrong. Jesus said in Luke 12:57, "Yes, and why even of yourselves do you not judge what is right?" So Jesus wants you to judge what is right. And I have quite a few verses here, and you can look them up yourself in concordance or search on your computer the word judge or judgment. And you're going to find that the Bible is written so we can judge right from wrong. So when people say, well, judge not, that you won't be judged, for the measure used against you, you use against them will be used against you. That word, if you look it up in the concordance again, it's a different word. It talks about condemning. I'm not trying to condemn anyone. I just want to judge right from wrong. So it's a different word than the other words for judgment. And so that's what that's about. So this is one of the verses that I've taken as a life verse. Walter Martin had Jude verse 3. If anybody heard of Walter Martin, The Kingdom of the Cults? Okay. His life verse was Jude verse 3. And when I heard that, I decided that's a cool thing to have a life verse, a verse that you want to live your life after. So I decided Jude verse 3 was going to be my life verse. And then in the NIV, I happened to read this: "Hold firmly to the trustworthy message as it has been taught, so you can encourage others with sound doctrine and refute those who oppose it." That's Titus 1:9. Now, it says the same kind of thing in different translations, but in Titus 1:9, it just said it so clearly to me, I thought, well, why are people not memorizing this verse? Because it's got it all there. Hold firmly to the trustworthy message as it has been taught. We should be holding firmly to that. We shouldn't be compromising. So that you can encourage others with sound doctrine. So we're telling them the truth. We're doing the right thing. And the thing we don't do today in America is refute those who oppose it. And I thought that is so clear. refute those who oppose sound doctrine, refute those who oppose the gospel. And how do we refute them? I didn't really know what refuting was going to be about until I ran into some people doing it. Here's another picture here. That'd be a picture of a Mormon church and some people holding signs out there, warning Devil's House, dead end, all kinds of signs. So it's like, I think they're refuting those who are opposing the gospel. Now, I'm not recommending you just jump right on out there and do that, but it's something to think about. This one I talked about earlier. Be ready always to give an answer to everyone who asks you for the reason of the hope that lies within you, and do it with reverence and respect. 1 Peter 3:15. So some of these Bible verses I'm giving you just because I think we should memorize these so that when they ask you, why are we doing this? In this class, we're going to be doing this. Study to show yourself approved unto God. A workman that needs not to be ashamed, but rightly dividing the word of truth. So we need to understand it correctly. 2 Timothy 2:15. There are books about discernment. This is J. Adams, a pretty famous writer, Christian writer. The Call to Discernment, Distinguishing Truth from Error in Today's Church. So he's talking about error in today's church, and that's a problem. So I just thought I'd show you one book. There's lots out there. Proverbs talks about truth and discerning. The mocker seeks wisdom and finds none, but knowledge comes easy to the discerning. Now, we're talking about deception, and I believe I was raised in a religion that was deceptive to me and my parents. Adolf Hitler registered guns in 1935 for a kinder, gentler nation. And the world lived happily ever after. I think not. So, was that deception? It's kind of a deception, I think, that we see secularly. But really, when you think about it, this is all based on your faith system. And so if you believe that you need to fly into towers and kill people, that's part of your faith system. If our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine into them. Okay, I'm going to start going a little faster here, just so you get the idea. I think discernment is important. And so, I like cartoons. Far Side was really fun for me. This is really a good one here. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Let's not be negative, okay? Now, because I believe I was deceived, and I think we're all deceived on something, I have a little drawing here that I had a buddy of mine draw. If you look just generically from a distance, everything seems to be okay. You've got a bunch of sheep out there and everything's fine. And so if you don't look closely, that's what you see. As you get a little closer, there may be some clues going on here, but you have to look really close. And if you get really, really, really close, aha! We have a wolf in sheep's clothing. Now, you realize, where did that come into effect? Where do we first see a wolf in sheep's clothing? They don't exist in the nature, right? They eat the sheep's clothing, right? So it's Jesus brought it into. This is something Jesus used as an example to us of wolves in sheep's clothing. We're supposed to watch out for those guys. Okay, so here we have a church in Kennewick. You know, everybody should have a favorite Mormon church. And I have, this one's my favorite. It's the one I was in Boy Scouts troop with my Mormon buddies. And, you know, thank you, Kennewick Street Department. Some things should be so obvious, right? So it's still there. You can go by and take a look. I just thought, wow, that's amazing that it's still there. I went by, 3 or 4 months ago and it's still there. So what are we going to do in this class? We're going to look like, Sherlock Holmes. There is a mystery going on here. Is it true or not? We got to find out what it is. So we're going to go looking at it closely, like the wolf in sheep's clothing. If you look at it afar, it says, the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ. I mean, what's wrong with that? Okay, so we need to look closely to see if there's anything wrong with that, or we're not discerning. this is my goal. I want you to be able to open the door with confidence. When you get that knock on the door, instead of saying, sorry, we're not interested, get the next door neighbors, because that's what the rest of the sentence is, you just haven't said it, right? Because they're going to go to the next door neighbors. They're going to get the neighbors, right? Or you can say, hey, come on in, guys. I've got some questions about your Book of Mormon. So you could actually take their time. Maybe you could even influence them for the kingdom. Now, you go, Marshall, nobody ever gets out of the Mormon church. Well, maybe they don't. This is in Utah, and you notice the blankets over here. This is a young kid. I don't know how old he is. I'm going to say 18, maybe 17. I'm wearing this shirt, one like it, and he comes up all jumpy, you know. Well, what's going on? Joseph Smith, oh, that's my papa, you know, just all jumpy and you know, what are you guys doing here? And just kind of trying to make fun of us. And I said, well, you know, we're telling the truth. Oh, yeah, right, you know. So he did some kind of thing there. And then I said, well, you know, there's something, and I gave him some kind of information. He said, I've never heard that before. The jumpiness and all the excitement came down to, wow, you're kind of interesting, is what he's really saying. I've never heard that before. He says, you got any more of those? I said, sure do. He goes, well, I'd like to hear some of that. But he says, you know, if they see me with your shirt, I'm going to be in trouble. They said, hey, how about let's go sit on the curb right here? He says, oh, we could do that. So I went and sat on the curb with him. So, okay, here's the guy's bold guy, right? All of a sudden he's being nice? What's wrong with that? So anyway, we sit down. I forget his name. He's got my quad right there. And we open it up to the first vision. And in 45 minutes, he said this. He goes, well, that means I'm not Mormon anymore. In 45 minutes. So you're going to want to know what I used, and you know that's going to take a while. So right now I'm just kind of giving you an overview that there is stuff here that does get Mormons thinking, and they do get out. Now I don't know if he got out, but I mean he's not Mormon anymore, right? He's not Mormon anymore. Now lots of times, you know, he's living at home, and there's all that pressure, and so they don't necessarily get out. They just quit going. They go inactive. If you don't have some Christian standing there, you know, to hold your hand a little bit and say, you know, it's okay, you know, and you know, help you out a little bit, because we're all kind of wimpy anyway. We all have wimpiness in us someplace, you know. If you look deep enough, we're all a bunch of wimps, okay? So when you think about it, it's like, how do you get this courage, right? So you need somebody else to kind of encourage you a little bit. That's what encourage means. You're going to get some courage, right? You're going to help me out. Without Christians there, they don't stand a chance. There's too much peer pressure. Remember peer pressure when you're in junior high? What did that do? It made you do things you would never do if you didn't have the peer pressure, right? Same stuff's going on in Mormonism. So I'm just trying to help you understand the other side. Because if you understand the other side, you're going to be more effective when you witness. Okay? Here's what it's all about. Now, I don't necessarily like psychologists, so I'm just going to tell you that ahead of time. I'm not crazy about Zig Ziglar, but there's a little quote he said, and I think there's a lot to this quote, okay? Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you can learn to do it well. And let me tell you, we're not born evangelists. You know, when you're 3 years old, I don't know too many people running around going, Jesus saves, you know, or whatever. So maybe some, but I didn't know any. Matter of fact, I didn't know anybody who ever brought a Bible to school when I went to Kennewick High. Never saw one person, didn't know you could do that. Didn't even know you could do that. Okay? So anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you can learn to do it well. And guess what? I witnessed poorly when I first started. Okay? You probably will too. And you know what? It's okay. And that's why we take you to Utah, so you don't do it in front of your buddies and they go, I'm never going to talk to you again. Okay, so you go over there and they say, I'm never going to talk to you again. And say, well, okay, I'm never going to see you again, so who cares, you know? When you come back, you have two things. You're going to get knowledge here in the class. You're going to get wisdom in the streets, okay? So the actual doing of things is going to give you the actual experience, and knowledge plus the experience is going to give you the wisdom. So that's why I keep pushing going to Utah, because it's a lot of fun. How many people have been to Utah with me? With me? Yeah? Okay, a couple. Okay, good. Yeah, sometimes I have a special tour of the temple, so you actually get to see those satanic symbols on the temple, so that's a lot of fun. There's another picture of Utah, so I'm just going to throw these in once in a while. This is Jenny Gunderson. She has a son or daughter, I forget which, that joined the Mormon church. I think it's a son. And she really didn't know what to do about it. And her and her husband are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And I met them at the ex-Jehovah's Witness convention in Portland, which doesn't happen anymore. And I was speaking on Mormonism, and they said, "You go to Utah every year. Where is that? And what day is that?" And what, and they took notes, and they were there. They showed up every single year since then. Couldn't wait. And they still haven't gotten their son out of the Mormon church, but they come every year. They see a need for it. And that's in the town of Manti, Utah, where that's taken. Okay, I got a couple of verses here I just want to cover because they were some of my favorite verses. This is in the Doctrine and Covenants. Now, if you have your Book of Mormon, let's see, I had one sitting here. Yeah. This is called the Triple Combination. It's got the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. Okay? If you have a big, thick one, this is called a quad. It's quadruple combination, triple combination. I didn't name them. That's what the Mormons call them. Okay? So I just use their names. Quadruple combination has the Bible in it. So if you put the Bible and the Book of Mormon and the triple combination together, it's about this thick. And if you put it in one binding, it's about the same thickness. So this is these two books. Now, there are actually 4 books here, okay? Because there's 3 in the triple and the Bible. Okay? So that's Mormon scriptures, but it's not all of them. This is all of them that are printed that you can go pick up and buy at the store. There's actually more, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, so this is called the Doctrine and Covenants, and it says Doctrine and Covenants. They abbreviate DNC, like Doctrine and Covenants, okay? And it's the middle one in your book. So we're not going to look it up necessarily unless you want to. If you have the new version, it's on page 131 in the Doctrine and Covenants. And I like this verse because it tells them what they have to do. Wherefore, confound your enemies, call upon them to meet you both in public and in private, and inasmuch as ye are faithful, their shame will be made manifest. Let them bring their strong reasons against the Lord. And I have strong reasons against the Lord of Mormonism. So when they say, "What are you doing going door to door in our neighborhood?" They say, "Well, let's see now. Your scriptures tell you that you're supposed to be letting me go door to door in your neighborhood. What do you mean?" And I show them DNC 71, 7, and 8. I have a cap that says DNC 71, 7, and 8 on it, so when I go door to door with a cap, and it's like, well, read that scripture. There it is. So let them call upon, let's see, it says, call upon your enemies both to meet you both in public and in private. So they're actually supposed to call upon me to meet them both in public and private, of which they don't want to do that. Inasmuch as they are faithful, my shame will be made manifest. So go ahead, be faithful to your scriptures and your prophets, and let's do it, and let's get together, and we'll be talking. And I have definitely got problems with the Lord of Mormonism. So that's a good verse to be using. Not very many people use that one, but I think it's a great one. Here we have a Doctrine and Covenants. This is 18, and it's verse 20. Contend against no church, save it be the church of the devil. So the only church they're supposed to contend against is the church of the devil. Now the Book of Mormon says there's but save 2 churches only, the church of the Lamb of God and the church of the devil. So since I'm not in your church, is your church the church of the Lamb of God? They know that verse. Yeah. Then I'm not in that church, so I must be part of the church of the devil. Would that be correct? Well, they don't want to tell me yes, but it's there. So, well, just tell me yes, be honest. Yes, right? You go, well, yes. Okay. So it says you're supposed to contend against me, so let's get contentious. They do not like to contend. That one there was DNC 1820. And that's the date of the first vision, DNC 1820. So that's easy to remember, which I just discovered that today when I was looking through my notes. And that brings me to this one here. And how much time have I got, guys? Am I 15? Good. Okay. Why do a debate, Marshall? Well, I did a fair booth in Benton County Fair for 19 years, and the sign was like Mormonism was wrong on the front. And after a few years, I put up $200 reward for anyone who arranged a debate with me and a priesthood-holding Mormon. And I never could find anybody to take takers, and I did find somebody eventually that said he would do it from Hawaii, but he backed out in the last week. We had it all set up. So we had to have somebody stand in that's an ex-Mormon, which wasn't quite as good. So anyway, I'm going to get the material in front of the public when I do a debate. Whether I win or lose, I don't care. I want you to hear the stuff. So the public doesn't know, like what this in this class, public has no clue what's going on here. You're going to have more information than the public even has a clue on. It explains the teaching side by side. So I'm going to show the Bible, show the Book of Mormon. I'm going to show you side by side stuff like we talked about the 3 keys of all faiths. You know, you're going to have a source of truth. Who is God? We're going to talk about who God is, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. We're going to talk about method of salvation. Is it by grace through faith, or is it by works and worthiness? So I'm going to be saying that over and over again to where you're going to hear it, and you're going to hear it, you're going to hear it, and you're going to know it. That's what I want. So I'm not apologizing for reviewing because I'm going to do that. It clears up the true gospel really is. If you can see a contrast between what's right and wrong, it clears up the gospel. You go, oh yeah, you know, the thing that I was confused about the gospel when I first started this, you know, and it's just like cleared all that up because there was an opposition. So I could see, well, if this is what they believe, I had to keep going back to my Bible. Well, what do we believe in, you know? And I was learning biblical Christianity because of the attack. So that pretty much covers that. I'm going to give you a little bit of this is on the final. So when I tell you stuff that's on the final, that's good because this is stuff you want to know. The dates of publication of the Book of Mormon and who is responsible for them. So the first Book of Mormon is 1830, and that's when Joseph Smith published it, and it's something like 5,000 of these were published. And they were trying to sell them, make money, which they didn't do. Didn't make a lot of money. They did sell some. And so that was a whole lot of 1830s. When I first started, they were worth about $5,000. Now they're worth over $100,000. So they went way up. The 1837, most rare, it was, I don't know what it was worth, I can't remember, but I just remember the 1830. The 1840 edition is almost the same as the 1842. We're not aware of any differences, but the front page does say the 1842 is the 4th edition. And so Joseph Smith was assassinated in 1844. Most people don't know he's running for the presidency of the United States. And he was killed, so that's an assassination. So these are the 4 versions that Joseph Smith had anything to do with. Okay, he had, you know, once you're dead, you can't do the next one. Orson Pratt, 1879, he actually versified the book. When the book was written, originally it was written as a novel. And the first edition, Joseph Smith claimed he was the author and proprietor. Second edition, it said translated by Joseph Smith. So the very first edition just was he was an author, much like a novel. And it looked like a novel, chapters, no verses. And so to make it look more like Scripture, Orson Pratt versified it. Okay, it still didn't have columns, but it read like a book, but it had verses on the side. And in this edition, Orson Pratt put footnotes for the very first time, telling you where the narrow neck of land was, geographical footnotes, lots of different footnotes, so you could actually see what's going on, what was claimed from clear back from Joseph Smith. Orson Pratt was current with Joseph Smith in the 1830s, so he was someone who would know what Joseph Smith claimed. And Orson Pratt was a theologian in his own right. As far as LDS scriptures and theology, Orson Pratt was a theologian. And so he was never a prophet, but he was assigned to do this because he was the theologian. Now, in 1920, James Talmage was also an apostle there too. He was not a prophet. These are 2 apostles here. And this in here is an apostle also. So 1920, the 6th edition came out. James Talmage redid the footnotes. And so they had a whole bunch of and they put kind of like, it's like a catalog, like a concordance in the back. They don't call it a concordance, it's a topical guide in the back. So you could look up a topic and find verses, much like a concordance, but it's not exhaustive. That was James Talmage. In 1981, Bruce R. McConkie, also a theologian in Mormonism, was responsible for the current edition. So the current edition, anything, when I'm using these dates, if you found an 1880, it's still the same as the 5th edition. So they continued, like if you find a 1919, it's a 5th edition. 1920, and this isn't like in America. This is American publications. In Great Britain, they had different dates, but this is our dates. You're going to find most of them. So 1981 and newer, so your 2011 is still, as far as I know, I haven't seen any changes, but somebody was talking about maybe a change, but I don't know. But as far as I know, we're in the current edition. And there are some values to knowing those dates. How are we doing on time now? Okay. So we're going to take a break here in about 5 minutes.